4 years, 3 directors, 2 script overhauls, 0 cast announcements. Netflix just handed The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, one of the most beloved books on the entire internet, to Anna Kendrick. And I have thoughts. Some of them are hopeful, most of them are concerned. And one of them is going to make half of you mad at me. I'm Kelly. Today we're talking about one of the most anticipated and most troubled adaptations in recent book talk history, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book means a lot to a lot of people. It means a lot to me. And the Anna Kendrick news has kicked off a 4-year conversation all over again about whether this story can even be adapted well, and whether a 2-hour Netflix film is the right format to try. Let's talk about it honestly. The receipts, the concerns, and the genuine reasons for hope. Because there are some. For anyone who hasn't read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, here's a spoiler-free crash course. Because you need to understand why this adaptation matters so much to so many people. Taylor Jenkins Reid published this novel in 2017, and it sat relatively quietly for a few years before Book Talk exploded it into one of the most read and most beloved books of the decade. Evelyn Hugo is a fictional old Hollywood icon, a Cuban-American actress who clawed her way to the top of the film industry in the 1950s and 60s through 7 strategic marriages, ruthless ambition, and an extraordinary talent she was never fully given credit for. Now aging and reclusive, she chooses an unknown journalist named Monique Grant to write her tell-all memoir, and as the story unfolds, we start to understand why Monique specifically was chosen. What makes this book extraordinary and so hard to adapt is the layering. It's a love story, it's a story about ambition and the price of success, it's a story about identity, specifically about being a queer Cuban-American woman in an industry that had no place for either. It spans roughly 50 years. It has 7 husbands who each represent a different chapter of Evelyn's life. It has Monique's present-day storyline that needs to earn its own payoff. It has a central love story between Evelyn and Celia that is the emotional engine of everything. And it has a final act revelation that is one of the most devastating things I've read in years. This was never going to be an easy adaptation, and that's where my concerns began. Let me give you the full development timeline because the history of this project tells you everything about where we are now. And here's the part most people don't even remember. Before Netflix, this book was in development as a TV series at Freeform with Eileen Chaikin, the creator of The L Word Attached, a series with one of the most respected queer showrunners in television. Hold on to that because it's gonna matter in a minute. March 2022, Netflix acquires the rights and announces it is a feature film with Liz Tegelar writing. Fans are cautiously excited. Tegelar made Little Fires Everywhere, which was a really strong adaptation. June 2023, over a year later, Leslie Headland of Russian Doll comes on to direct. The fandom responds well. This feels like the right choice. Then comes January 2025. Headland confirms at Sundance that she's left the project. Her words, "I am no longer working on that project. I remain a huge fan of the book and of the people working on it. It's one of those things where you know it's going to be a huge success." February 2025, Maggie Betts, who directed The Burial, is announced as director number 2. The fandom grows nervous. And then Betts also leaves the project. No big announcement, no explanation, just gone. June 1st, 2026, Netflix announces Anna Kendrick as director number 3, with Francisca Sloan, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Fargo, Big Little Lies Season 3, now revisiting Tegelar's script. So, that's where we stand. 4 years at Netflix, 3 directors, 2 of whom walked away, a script on at least its 2nd major revision, and still not one single cast announcement. That history tells me one of 2 things. Either this material is incredibly complex and they keep resetting because they refuse to make it badly, or nobody has figured out how to make it work. I honestly don't know which. And that uncertainty is where my concerns start. Let me walk through my specific concerns because I want to be clear about what I'm actually worried about. Concern 1, the format. The biggest question hanging over this adaptation from day one: why is this a film and not a limited series? It's 50 years of story, 7 distinct relationship arcs, a parallel present-day storyline, a central love story that needs room to breathe. You cannot do all of that in 2 hours. You can barely do it in 6 episodes. And here's what makes this thing look at every other Taylor Jenkins Reid adaptation. Daisy Jones and the Six? Amazon made it a series, and the same producers from Daisy Jones are on this project. Carrie Soto is back in development as a series with Serena Williams, executive producer. Malibu Rising in development at Hulu as a series, and Evelyn Hugo itself started as a series at Freeform before Netflix got it. Every single book in the TJR universe is getting the series treatment, except the most layered, most decade-spanning, and structurally complex one. It makes 0 sense. The one that needs episodes the most is the only one being compressed into a film. If that compression goes wrong, we know exactly what it looks like. Whole husbands reduced to montages, the Celia storyline squeezed, and Monique's present-day arc, which the entire ending depends on, first on the cutting room floor. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not optimistic. Concern 2, the casting. 4 years of development, 0 announced cast, and this is honestly one of the most important casting decisions in recent book talk history. Evelyn Hugo is a Cuban-American woman. That's not an incidental detail. Her heritage, the way Hollywood made her hide it, bleach her hair, present a more acceptable version of herself to become a star, that's not background. It is the story. It is the whole point. Which brings me to the take I warned you about. Fan cast for Evelyn over the years has been Jessica Chastain. And I get why on surface all. She has the old Hollywood glamour, and she physically resembles a manufactured movie star version of Evelyn. But casting a non-Latina actress as Evelyn Hugo would be doing to this character exactly what the book is criticizing Hollywood of doing to her. You'd be reenacting the erasure the novel exists to expose. And here's the thing. Chastain herself has actually addressed this. She said publicly there's 0 possibility she'll play Evelyn. So even the most popular fan cast in the fandom is already off the table. And honestly, I think she made the right call. Evelyn must be played by a Latina actress. The story depends on it. And 4 years with no casting announcement tells me this question has been really difficult inside the production. I hope they solved it correctly, because if they don't, the backlash will be severe and it will be deserved. Concern number 3, the director. I want to be fair here, because Anna Kendrick directing Woman of the Hour showed real talent behind the camera. The film was quiet, controlled, and smart. It premiered at Toronto in 2023. Netflix paid 8 figures for it, and it landed on the platform in late 2024. By all reporting, Kendrick read multiple scripts Netflix offered her and chose this one. She wanted this. But Woman of the Hour was her first feature. It contains single timeline thriller. This, on the other hand, is one of the most beloved books on the internet, spanning 5 decades. With period production design, huge fan expectations, and a central queer love story the readership is fiercely protective of. That's a massive leap for a second feature. I'm not saying she can't do it. I'm saying the degree of difficulty just went from a balance beam to a high wire. And I hope Netflix gives her every resource she needs. Concern number 4, the ending. I'll be careful here, because if you haven't read this book, I'm begging you to stop this video and go read it. The ending needs to land on the page first. What I will say, the final act revelation is not a plot twist. It's an emotional gut punch that reframes everything you thought you understood. It requires real precision to translate that to screen. Rush it, telegraph it, soften it, and the entire film collapses. In a compressed 2-hour format, with Monique's storyline most at risk of being trimmed, this is the thing I'm most afraid of. Now, in fairness, let me tell you what honestly gives me hope, because this is not a video about tearing something down before it exists. Taylor Jenkins Reid is an executive producer on this film, and she has been since the start. She said publicly that Netflix has real respect for this readership and that everyone is working hard to get it exactly right. The producer lineup is quietly excellent. Brad Mendelsohn and the Daisy Jones team are here, so the people who got a TJR adaptation right before are in the same room. So 3 director changes in 4 years is sort of messy, but it also means that Netflix has repeatedly chosen to reset rather than to just ship something mediocre to cash in on book talk. A studio that didn't care would have released a bad version of this movie 2 years ago. And Anna Kendrick chose this project. She wasn't assigned to it, she read the options and picked the hardest one. Whatever my reservations about the scale, that tells me she cares about this material, and that counts for something. So here's what I'm asking for. Not as a reviewer, just as someone who loves this book. Cast a Latina actress as Evelyn. It's non-negotiable. Give Evelyn and Cecilia's love story the space it deserves. Protect the ending. Whatever else you have to cut to make a 2-hour film work, protect that ending. And if after 3 directors and 4 years you honestly cannot tell this story well in 2 hours, it's not too late to admit the Freeform people had it right the first time. This was born to be a limited series. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo? And what are your concerns about the adaptation? Who is your dream cast for Evelyn and Cecilia? Film or limited series? Jot everything below. This is exactly the kind of conversation this channel exists for. The book is linked in the description. And if you haven't read it, please read it before the film comes out, however long that takes, which at this rate might be a while. Find me everywhere at Before It Was a Movie. Read first, watch second, judge always.